Good afternoon, everyone.
Hey.
This was one of those weeks where I was, oh crap, uh, where I was looking at what are we talking about this week. So I went to our events calendar and I'm like, well, I don't want to talk about that this week. I want to talk about something else. And I realized, that's kind of the reason why Skip and I came up with the events calendar because you'll just push off things, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to work on that this week.
Yeah.
And we have designed this schedule of events that we talk about every week for a reason. Those of you who are watching the recordings of this, and there's 100 or so of you every week,
Mhm.
um, you guys have discovered that what we're doing is we're reminding you that, hey, if you work on things like now, like say on risk planning, then when October comes up, you're not behind the gun. You're not
Yeah.
you're not firefighting. You actually like, oh, I prepared that material back in August or back in September, and now I'm ready in October. And that's kind of how we go about our lives, is that we have to have a schedule, a kind of a theme to what we're doing so that we can push forward and be prepared. Otherwise, you're always in firefighting mode.
Mhm.
Skip and I get this question all the time, like, how do I get out of firefighting mode? This is how you do it. You watch these every week and you get reminded that, you know what, in August, I really need to be thinking about budgeting and risk assessments so I can feed my October and November stuff.
Yeah.
And then
And
you start being felt as more professional.
yeah. And we just try to maximize, the momentum that's out there with October being cybersecurity month, whoever came up with that, whatever. All right. I'm just going to capitalize on the marketing capital that's out there. There's a good chance that some of the big brands, Cisco typically does some sort of major market, sort of deal during that month. And so someone is going to be watching a football game and see some commercial about, dark web monitoring or whatever. All right. And those kick off initiatives, and that's
Yeah.
fine and all, and we definitely want to capitalize on that. But what if you started now and it started looking at maybe using a risk assessment or CIS or whatever you're using with, and you get a baseline so that one, either when you're scheduling a meeting with your client or you're getting that spark of inspiration or questioning from them, you already have the ball rolling. And you show up to that meeting, like, yes, we've been doing analysis, we've had this on your calendar, we bumped it up from from next week to this week because you were really interested, and this is what we have. Now you're proactive. You've got information to talk to them about, specifics, you can answer questions. If they've got something that they're really wanting to know, you've already done the looking to it that you need to do. And so getting this rolling right now is going to set it up so that in October, you actually get deals closed
Yeah.
instead of just opening opportunities. All right. And that's what, especially, all the vendors that are going to be doing marketing, then they're hoping to inspire sales, all right, to start that rolling. And so that would be new opportunities. But what if you took that momentum and instead closed deals?
Yeah. And it's funny to watch because I remember being that way. Like there's these
Mhm.
moments in your life, like I remember thinking a certain way. I remember thinking, oh, I will get that done next week. I will, and I'm constantly working really hard. I've always been a high productivity employee. My bosses never complain about my productivity. They always just complain about my attitude. And so, this yeah, all those entrepreneurs were ego driven. So, anyways, the planning, the forecasting, the context of projects really matters. And one of the reasons why we kind of pushed on August to really think about risk assessments is because we want to add context to our fourth quarter projects and opportunities so that you're not just saying you need to buy this just because. Like, why does the customer care about expiring assets? Why does the customer care that they do multi-factor? Why? These all go down. And you're going to say, well, the threat basis, and you're going to have these big things. But if you can kind of sit down and say, okay, I know that you want an easier way to log on because it's getting really annoying to have to change your password every 30 days. Multi-factors can take us out. And you've had a number of lost accounts over the past year. let's make this easier for you. And we're also going to like mitigate these controls. We're going to
Yes.
make you look better so you can pass your stock audit in a couple weeks. So to that end, Skip and I are going to show you guys like we have risk audits built into the software that some of you may or may not know about, and they're pretty cool. I don't know if Skip, you want to share your screen, or if you want me to
Yeah.
share my screen.
No, I can do mine.
Skip's
See if I
very
can get
easy.
the right screen going.
Hard on them, and they were not easy to put together because we don't invent risk audits. We plagiarize the heck out of them. You can get a NIST
Absolutely.
one, you can get a CIS one. I do not want the liability of building a risk audit. I'm going to lean on a instituted one that has been given a lot of thought. And so I can say, hey, I'm not the one telling you need multi-factor. NIST is.
Yes.
I'm not the one telling you you need better password security policies. CIS is. So without further ado, Skip, you got that?
Yeah, I think I do.
It's a little different
Right.
to share your screen on this sucker.
Well, I know sometimes resolution's a little different, so hopefully that one's coming through.
Oh, it's beautiful and clear.
All right. So this one, and so I'll give you a quick peek at the actual NIST report that we run from on this. So as Adam mentioned, we're using all of the NIST material. We've got all of the pillars of the CSF foundation there, and plenty of supporting context. But when we get down to here, we're following our gap analysis process. So a really valuable way to approach this. And I know this is going to be really security focused guys, and they're going to look at that and go, hey, where's the proof? Where's the documentation and all that? That is part of an audit. All right. This is part of an assessment. All right. We want to know how deep we need to go and what we need to get, done so we can satisfy an audit. But first, we need to know where we're at. And so that's what this is going to allow us to do. As we go through here, we're able to look at these and say, hey, they've got these elements in place, but these they do not. All right. And so now we've created our gap, and we can easily get these on the roadmap and now start working those through with our client. So really easy way to run through these. One of the things I like to tell everybody is take it in chunks. All right. The NIST assessment, we redid this not too long ago. I still think 127 different control statements in there or something. I don't know. It's a lot. So break it down. I mean, you may want to, so there's all these that we can kind of hide at the moment, and start with identify. This is a super easy one to sit down and start this process with your clients. So we've got, I think just three control families in this one. All right. And you can knock this out in maybe a month, at least a quarter. All right. Most likely, and walk through your clients and get this sort of done, this section done. And then when you're done, open up the next one and move on. So rather than turning this mountain of work, into something that your clients are just going to glaze over and go, yeah, we'll do that next year. Make this more actionable.
Yeah. And, when you're going through and you're doing it in chunks, as Skip said, like make it a section of the year, like kind of make this kind of like if you're more security focused as an MSP, maybe start the year by going through governance. Maybe start the year by going through a pattern. Ask your compliance specialist, find people like Tim Golden or like some of your friends out there and say, hey, look, what's a good approach to looking at compliance over the year? And then you can say, okay, you know what, quarter one, we're going to do this. Quarter two, we're going to do this. And then you're constantly reevaluating, and you're doing it in bite-sized chunks. And then your QBRs or your SBRs, whatever you're calling them, are fueled by the context given in your risk assessment. So if your client is very security focused, they really have a high priority on security, this is going to make them really happy. Then you're going to have a nice view here that you could send in a weekly dispatch or a monthly dispatch. As you keep auditing them, more things are going to flow into here, and your client's going to slowly get on board. So if you scroll down, you'll see your
that view, this view is what really sets, I think, the action aside from the way we've done it in the past. So, audits, many times they boil down to spreadsheets, right? And I've sat through many of these where week by week, we're going through the same Excel spreadsheet. And by the end of it, we're all just spreadsheet numb, right? I mean, it was just too many rows and columns and scrolling and tabs, and it's just too much. So the report is what it is. So whether we do that kind of back office or we walk through steps of that with our client, that's okay. But once we've identified those items, let's go up a level. And so here we're not maintaining a nice dashboard, overall, what do we need to do? We've got our current score, our target score, and even our ITCQ, our global comparison. So it's a great way to, kind of keep an eye on the prize as far as where we're going. We bring in additional content. Love Bitfender's deal. I hope they keep this going for a long time. Not sure what you'd really do with it, but it's really cool. So I'm glad they keep maintaining that. We've got a budget going on here. And now once I get down, these are the pillars within NIST CSF. So we can actually track our status on all these different elements. How are we doing on protect, detect, or identify? I'm sorry, I got one wrong there. Identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. All right. So we can walk through these. Hey, looks like they're doing great on governance. All right. We spun the donut all the way on governance. But this is just an easy way to focus on what needs to be done and don't get lost in all the stuff that has done. That happens so many times. We've got details on here. If we need these, we can open these up, look at them. Maybe we added some notes. Maybe we need to set some, expectations for pricing, or if nothing else, an action item date. We can time box budgets, our time box fields out there to just say, hey, we're going to do something at this time. So a really easy way to take all of that information, get it up in front of your client, and have meaningful discussions. Is there more detailed work? Absolutely. There are specific forms that got to be filled out. There's, the documentation, the proof, and all that. All right. We're going to do that no matter what, but let's not derail our client engagements with all of this detail that we bring to them so many times that isn't needed in these client engagements.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing I can tell you from being a director of security in the corporate world is don't overwhelm people. Give them meet them where they are. Once they start overwhelming, they stop making decisions. But when they feel like they've got a grasp on what's going on, then they're going to make decisions like, hey, you know what? This session, we're just going to talk about the identify part. So we're going to go through asset management. So you might want to throw a couple asset management widgets in here to talk about the problem assets under identify.
Yeah.
You might say, hey, we're going to look at Sandstock 20 really wants you to work on your asset inventory and make sure we understand that what all these assets are. Are they high risk assets? Are they priorities? What do we need to know about these assets so that we can add context? Like, you really want to protect the CEO's laptop. You really want to protect the CFO's laptop. Cool. What about this server over here? What is it on? Oh, it's running Peachtree, or it's running Microsoft Dynamics. We might want to make sure we've got an extra layer of security on that, including from our own employees. Like, we might have to say, like, look, only one of our employees gets access to this, or there's an egress password. And so we identify these and we put them in the list here, and we say, we're just going to talk about these things.
Yep.
And that way your client isn't overwhelmed. And so you can create multiple views here. You might create a persona just for identify. You might create a persona just for detect. That breaks out what in your environment is going to give them context so you can make easier conversations.
And this is very much one of my, just stock sort of images or sample data sets. But as you were talking about earlier, Adam, we can really drive into what is the value. So this is the standard naming, product that NIST kind of produces here, but we can change the names on these. So as you're going through and you're understanding the values, you can provide some insight on to those elements just by changing the name. Or if nothing else, putting some more description or details down here to really highlight, hey, yes, we are going to be satisfying our compliance requirement here, But at the same time, we're also enabling your organization to do this now.
Yeah.
One of the examples I keep throwing around is, if you get things squared away, with how you're handling credit card information, you may have the opportunity to exercise more billing options than you did before, right? So now you've got the ability to invoice, to sell a product, to generate more revenue than you did before you were doing the compliance work. All right, the compliance work does what it does, but let's keep an eye out for where these line up and provide value to our clients. And now they don't look at these as compliance issues. They're looking at the name of this or the details you've put in here and going, oh yes, I want that in my business. Can we get that moved up in the timetable a little bit? Can we do that sooner? Because I think that'll really help our business.
Yeah.
And quit, looking at the drop dead date that you have on the audit requirements or whatever. And now they're pushing things in advance because they want it now.
Yeah, and I think this is just one of the things we've been talking about for years, is add context and do it by renaming your projects. And we'll always be shouting that from the rooftops.
Absolutely.
No one cares about NIST Identify 184 risk detection. Yeah, you as a compliance officer understand the context of that. But your client is just like, what is this? But if you say, hey, you know what? Asset management, we're going to talk through that. We're going to identify critical assets or find important things to protect. Make it simple.
Yeah.
Make it achievable. Think of it like a fifth grader. You're explaining this to your fifth grader. Now, these people are very intelligent. Don't get me wrong. Stop thinking of your clients as they're as dumb just because they're not up to your standards in engineering. You've got a PhD in engineering. They're just trying to figure this stuff out. They've got a PhD in finance or business strategy or flower shops or operations, but they still have maybe a fifth or fourth grade understanding of this stuff.
Yep.
And so now speak to that level.
Yep. And as you position those action items, so, we got projects and all here, again, this is all kind of stock examples, but when you look at this as a part of a bigger picture, so, everybody's wanting to standardize on their stack. They're wanting their clients to, utilize as many services as they're providing as possible. The outcome of those, the projects, and so again, if you're using our platform and you do an architecture assessment, you're going to identify gaps in your client's environment. And many of those gaps, you're going to create a project, you have a recommendation there, but the solution that you're providing, guess what? It also fills the gap that comes up on a standardized assessment like NIST or CIS or any of the other ones out there. So it's a really cool opportunity to walk through with your clients. And as you look at some of these, you'll flag that and say, yes, that's a gap. And the recommendation that pops up is not just the standard NIST one. It's the one that you've gone and you've tweaked just a little bit to better identify the solution that you're offering. And that solution there also has a little status icon out next to it. It says, hey, we've already been doing this, or hey, we've already done this project for you guys. We did this back in Q1. The work that we did then is satisfying the requirement for compliance that we're working on right now. And so your clients see you as, a more well-developed provider. It's not just that you're pushing technology solutions, you're pushing technology solutions that make a difference long-term. So there's a great way for all these to come together. It reinforces what we've been talking about. It's not just satisfying a requirement, but it's also about providing value, and all those value expectations that you talked about when you were doing an architecture effort back in Q1. We're getting the results and the rewards from that now as we close out the year.
Yeah. And again, it's all about simplifying. And then building throughout the year and making this a cycle that you're going through. So you're continuously talking to your clients about this stuff. You're making things simple for them, and you're doing it on a regular basis. And now you're like, well, we don't have enough time to talk about all that. And like, yes, that's why you have multiple meetings. And now your meetings have context, and you no longer have to think, what do I talk about in SBRs? It's now like, okay, how do I pare this down?
Mm-hmm.
And that's also like, if you ever notice in our tool, we only allow you 4 columns.
Yeah.
We do that on purpose because a lot of tools out there are like, look at all the stuff you can put on one screen. And it's like,
Yeah.
no one likes being screamed at by data. And so we said, we're going to lock it to 4 columns until we can't stand it anymore, because this keeps things simple. You have to choose what you're going to have on the screen now.
Yeah.
You have to choose what's important to your clients. So when you do a risk audit, so we also have CIS.
Yep.
If you do CIS audit in here, you're going to get a similar view. Build your view, add in projects, add in modules that make sense to your clients, and do an audit in compliance that matters to your
Yep.
clients, whether it's CIS, whether it's NIST. And if you really start getting heavy into compliance, go out and buy a professional tool that just does that. And like compliance scorecard, which we integrate with because we know there's a lot with compliance and governance,
Yep.
and we'll do the audit. But when it comes to maintaining compliance, you really need a dedicated tool to do that.
Yeah. And, we do this a lot. And so I don't have a CIS audit in this demo instance, and I don't want to mess this one up. This is one of our replicas that we copy out. But as you utilize these other tools, don't feel that those are separate solutions, right? You do need to maintain a common kind of environment that you're communicating and engaging with your clients on. So there's some great tools out there, all right? If you're not using compliance scorecard and you've got another tool, maybe it's doing what you need, but don't drop what you're doing with your clients and then shift gears to something totally separate, all right? And change up the way you're using things. You can use our platform or whatever else you're using, but bring the high level discussion points that we need from those tools, bring them over into the platform or your other mechanism, and use it that way. It's the changing gears too often deal. Your clients get confused about, oh, we're looking at this screen, now we're looking at this screen, and nothing kind of seems to connect. You're scattered all over the place. Kind of get things organized, get into one really good view with your clients. There's integrations options that you can do, like, so working with a member now, and they're using Blacksmith for a lot of their compliance and security work, and that is integrating really well with ConnectWise for them. And so we're making we're closing the loop. We're bringing those in. All the nitty gritty sort of technical work is happening in Blackstone, but that's making its way to ConnectWise, and then we're looking at it here. So at the end of the day, our client has a simple view to go and see everything. Yes, they want to focus on security right now, but next week they may want to look more at their overall budget. All right, make it simpler for your clients to get the information they need without overwhelming them.
And then I'm going to add in one more piece here before we go out. Like, so we were talking earlier about how throughout the year you're adding context to conversations to projects. If you see overlap between 2 projects, like between your NIST Identify or NIST Detect and another project you're working on, make sure you relate them. Talk about them in each one. And then finally, in your standard QBR, SBR, or your daily, your weekly digest that you're sending your clients, maybe include this now. Now you've got another module you can add in there. There's nothing saying that you have to have one theme to a persona. And so as you mature, as you're doing more things to your clients, you're going to add in more modules that add context to each other. So you're going to, on one of them, you're going to have an asset listing. And then on the next to it might be like high risk assets identified by NIST governance or NIST Identify. These are good things. These are good things to happen. And it makes things simple. Our views keep things simple. So when you add in modules, you're still going to add things in, but put things in context, create personas that matter. And then when you do a risk audit, maybe put that risk set of recommendations right next to your project recommendations or right next to your end of life assets, so that you can start adding notes in there and helping your clients understand what decisions are really easy for them to make, quick wins, and then everybody's going to be happy. When you walk into your October meeting to start talking about security, you're going to have all your projects right there lined up, ready to go. When you go and talk about your budgeting in November, you're going to have all of your risk assets. You're going to have all your identification and projects all right there ready to go. All the
Yep.
work has been done. So it's a really great way to streamline your processes for your clients every year, especially when you're doing monthly meetings with your clients.
Yep.
Our weekly emails feed those monthly meetings to give them a nice little drip. The monthly meetings feed those quarterly sessions where you're going to talk about big things going on. And then your contextual audits are going to feed all of that,
Yep.
including making the opportunities and projects on in your PSA more mature and more likely to be purchased.
That's it.
All right, Skip, thanks for coming on today. It's been a really busy couple of weeks for us.
Yeah, it is.
Feel free to reach out. Skip's got a great session this afternoon
Oh, yeah.
about all the new features we've released. Like, it's not just little things, it's huge things that will affect your day and will save you hundreds of hours.
Absolutely.
So please attend. If you have not registered, it's a members only event. If you have not seen the email, go in, check your email, see if it's in your spam folder, and get signed up for that members only event. I believe Skip will even have a unique offer for that event.
I do.
So if you pop in, you might actually be able to save a ton of money.
There you go. So it's if you can't find an email, just log into the platform. You're getting a little slide out right now. I apologize. I'm being a little annoying, but I want to make sure everybody sees that. It's also in your little Member 101 bubble down there on the bottom left corner. As soon as you log in, you can grab that information. So we got the first one today. We'll be doing it again next Tuesday to make sure that we accommodate time zones and schedules and all that. And if you are unable to make it for some reason and you really want this, again, in that little pop-out bubble, I've even got a link that you can just book some time and we can go over it that way. But I'm also looking for some feedback from our members as well. So really excited about today's webinar update.
All right. Well, thank you, Skip, and we'll see you all there, or we'll see you next week.
Thank you.